but if you look around, you'll see some old cars traveling the streets of Newport with Donnelly bumper stickers on them. Harp is well known here in Newport, also throughout Rhode Island, covering the vast expanses of the United States, and his name is known in many countries around the world. Well, the other day, I heard one man with an Irish brogue saying, the name Harp Donnelly, the third, is better known than Coca-Cola. And with that, I'd like to welcome an all-around nice guy, Harp Donnelly.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you very much.
Welcome to the show.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
Harp, let's talk a little bit about your family. What do you remember most about your mother and father?
Well, they were both very hard-working people. My father was born in Ireland and came here as a young man. My mother was born in Newport. She was the daughter of Irish immigrants. And I was the second-born child. I had an older sister, Lorraine. And being like the oldest boy, you know, a lot sort of fell on my shoulders too, you know, kind of help things out around the house. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the role. But my parents were very hardworking, as I said earlier, and very concerned about, you know, the upbringing of us kids. There were 9 of us. There were 7 boys, 2 girls.
God, that was quite a family.
Quite a family is right, you know. And they taught me a lot. I learned a lot from, you know, both parents. They each had their own little sayings about things, you know, and sometimes they were kind of contrary, you know, to one another. Mm-hmm. But the message came across, you know.
With 9 kids?
Yeah.
Boy. I know you mentioned about your brothers and sisters, and tell us a little bit about your brothers and sisters. I know that you've got some very talented, you've got a very talented family or something.
Yes, it's a funny thing that almost all my brothers sing, and I can't sing with a Don. My brother Fran, of course, has been in music for years and years and years, and my brother Brian likes to sing, and Chad likes to. They all sing. Jackie and Donnie, they all sing, you know, very, very well, except me. I had 2 sisters, one older and one younger, both who have passed away, and matter of fact, both passed away as a result of cancer. And again, you know, being brought up in a big family is very, very special. My wife's an only child, and she married into all of this, but I don't know.
Must have been quite a transition.
Oh yes, and then having 6 children herself and 7 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren, it's quite an experience for her, but she's lived up to it very well. But most of the time, we all got along pretty good, you know, all my brothers and I, and I used to sort of mind my younger brothers from time to time just to give my mother a little break because she had twins. Franny is a twin, Franny and Brian were twins. Mm-hmm. So I would take my brother Chad, who was 2 years older than them, out to, you know, get him out of the house to give him our break. So I had a very special closeness to, you know, just all my brothers. And we still, you know, every now and then, everybody will call or we'll get together. And because Jack's had his problems with sickness as of late, and we don't see him. Yeah, we don't see him quite as much as we'd like to, but when he can make a family gathering, he does, you know. He's also had a cancer problem with his tongue, but he's doing well, you know. Thank God.
I know your brother Fox.
Everybody knows the Fox.
Yeah. He's quite a guy.
Yeah, he is.
We had a talent show down St. Augustine's one time. I don't know if you recall. It was some years back. Yeah. And I guess he and Charlie Burns sang together. It was quite a night. I guess they used to go around singing together quite often.
Yeah.
So, how did he ever get the name Fox? It's kind of.
I guess it goes back to his caddy days over at the Newport Country Club. Someone started calling him the Red Fox. He had reddish, you know, hair at the time. And it just picked up, and he's the Fox, you know.
Wow.
And everybody calls him the Fox. On occasion, I call him Tom, which is his real name.
And speaking about names, how did you ever get the name Harp Donnelly?
Well, when my father came from Ireland, they called him a Harp. And my Uncle Flurry, who was passed away, he was a policeman on the Newport Police Department, a motorcycle policeman, and they called him Harp also. That was actually, I guess you'd say it was sort of an ethnic slur, but we always felt that the harp is the national symbol of Ireland, so we don't take it as a slur to be called Harp. And I guess with the name, first name like Humphrey, although a lot of people do call me Humphrey. It's not like a real nickname for it, they call you, hey, Humper or something like that, and Harp sounds very nice, and to a lot of people I'm Harp, to a lot I'm Humphrey, and to sort of old-time family, I'm Sonny. My father was Sonny.
Oh, really?
He was Big Sonny, I was Little Sonny. And if I run into somebody who was, been a long, close member of the family, they will still say Sonny Donnelly. Yeah.
Is there, let me ask you this, Harp, is there a Humphrey J. Donnelly IV?
Yes, there is. Yeah, my oldest boy. I didn't want to seem conceited and name him after me, so I named him after my father.
That's funny. And is this something that's going to go on down the line? Will there be a fifth?
I kind of doubt it. My son and his wife seem very set in their ways, and who knows? I mean, who knows what's down the road, but I wouldn't bet on it. And, years ago you say, oh, gee, it'd be so nice to carry the name on the tradition, and all of a sudden that doesn't, it doesn't mean that much anymore. There are so many other things so important in life,
But yeah, you're right, but the tradition, carries on.
Well, somewhere down the line, somebody could name one of their children Humphrey, and it would indeed be the fifth, because that's the way things, fall once you get through the fourth, and even if it's a child born, not direct from our line, it could be.
And it doesn't have to be in succession.
Exactly,
Yeah,
right. That's
good.
what I'm trying to say, but you said it so much better.
Oh, I wanted to ask you, Harp, too. We all know, we followed your life politically, and you were really up there in politics, and you were a hard worker, go-getter. Just interested to know, who was it? Was it your parents that were instrumental in getting you into politics, or was there someone else, or one specific person?
Sort of a combination, Charlie. My father was very, very interested in politics, as was my grandmother. When my grandmother came over from Ireland, she got very, very involved right away with the Democratic Party. That's what most of the Irish did in those days. When they came over, they went for the Democratic Party. And my father couldn't get all that involved in local politics because he worked for the government. But he's always on the side, always trying to do something for somebody, a candidate that he thought was worthy of it. But I was very close to Dan McCarthy, who worked for O'Brien Music, and he also owned the Paddock Cafe. And I guess he was the one that really pushed me to run. He was going to get off the council. He felt that he had, served his time, and he asked me if I would consider running. And I felt Dan was very close to the working person, and because he'd be in the bar that he owned, and he was in close contact with people who come in from all walks of life to see him and talk to him about things of a political nature. So I felt we were losing something when he decided not to run. And I thought, well, maybe if I ran, I could, take his place as far as being the working man's representative. And I did indeed become, the blue-collar mayor. They always call me that. And that's what I tried to be. I tried to stay close to the people, and they knew my every move. I mean, people knew if I was going to go to the Star Lunch at a certain time, they'd be there, or that I used to clean the paddock in the mornings, and they knew that I would be there at 6 o'clock in the morning, and people would call or stop by, and I enjoyed it. I loved doing it, and being on the council in Newport and being the mayor is, it's rather different than a lot of communities, because one thing is the form of government. We have a council manager form of government where it's not a strong mayor, but yet the mayor is the chief executive, so to speak, and the signer of all contracts and the greeter of everybody to the city. And where it's such an international city, at the time I was in, of course, we had the cup races. So you had people from all over the world coming for the trials and everything else. You have the War College, and you have the international courses with the foreign officers of the Staff College and the Command College. So you meet people again from around the world. And where I was in so long, I was on the council 12 years, I was the mayor and chairman 10 years. You know, I met a tremendous amount of people, tremendous amount of people.
Yeah, we're going to get into that in a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is neat. Yeah. That's neat. To bring it back a little bit, though, I wanted to ask you, you know, when you were coming up through the schools, what are some of the schools you attended?
I went to St. Mary's School up here back at St. Mary's Church, which is no longer there. And I went to Dallas Hall Academy for 2 years. And then I transferred to Rogers for 2 years, and I graduated from Rogers High in 1948. And that was the extent of my school education. I certainly got educated a lot the other way.
I know that you do belong or have belonged to a lot of organizations. Could you name a few of them for us?
Well, I'm county president of the H&R Hibernians. I'm going to be installed in September as the president of the Newport County ARC, which comes under the umbrella of the Maha Center, or vice versa, I should say. I'm on the state RIARC. I'm director at large and a member of the executive board. I'm a member of the board of directors of the Navy League. I belong to the Irish Heritage organization of the city, the Newport County Irish Heritage. I'm the treasurer of that, and there's a new organization being founded, the Newport Irish Museum, which I'm going to be the treasurer of that. I say I'm going to be the treasurer. Actually, it's my wife. She has all the books. And I belong to a lot of other organizations, you know. Yeah, a lot of other organizations. And I belong to the Elks Lodge and like the Newport Art Museum and the Newport Historical Society and the Preservation Society, groups like that. When I retired, I thought that I would get a lot more active in some of these organizations. You know, primarily the ARC and the Maha Center and the Navy League. But then, you know, developed this problem. It kind of slows me down a little bit.
You know what they say? They say, Harp, when you retire, you have all kinds of time.
Yeah, it hasn't worked out that way. It hasn't.
Oh, boy. Yeah. When Dan, I just bring you back a little bit. When Dan Sullivan talked to you about running for
Dan McCarthy.
Dan McCarthy, I'm sorry. When he first asked you for running for office, what were your thoughts? Were you kind of apprehensive?
Yeah, I was apprehensive. It would have been a total new thing for me, and I've told the story before about how I did, you know, get my papers from City Hall, and I had them signed, and they had to be in at a certain day, and I had them on the visor of my car. And as I was driving up Mann Avenue, the wind blew the papers out into the street. And I had to determine then, am I going to get out and get those papers and turn them in, or am I going to forget the whole thing? And I get out and pick the papers up and turn them in down at City Hall.
You know what they say? They say that your first win when you're running for politics is always your best win. It's something that you come back. It's always something you remember. It's like that first taste of honey.
Yeah.
So to speak. Let me ask you this. Do you remember who that first person that you ran against and defeated, and what were your feelings?
Well, I ran at large, so you weren't running against any one particular person. Your your name was in a category with 6 people, and they picked the top 3 who won. As it turned out, it was Bob Reed, who was on the council, who was a friend of mine. The 3 at large. The other candidates were all friends of mine, but I just put my name up, and if the people wanted me, I figured they'd vote for me. But you're absolutely right about what you said about your first victory, because that evening, the night of the election, I felt both sides of it, because I was up at a little office I had next to the Star Lunch on Broadway, and I had runners that were out in all the voting districts throughout the city. And they were bringing back the count, of what I got in the polls. And we added it up, and I had lost by
Oh, really?
200 and something votes.
Wow.
And I said, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So I figured I went, in those days, Paul and Eddie's was up next to the Star, on Broadway. So when I think, I'll have a beer and I'll decide, or should I walk down to the campus authority or whatever. And while I was there, a friend of mine came in who had got the complete count, and he said, Harp, you won. He says, your brothers forgot the count of one of the polls. I don't know whether it was Burning Hall or whatever, but I ended up winning by 300 and something votes or whatever it was. So I knew the feeling, and you're right, you never forget that first time, and even though there were bigger wins as time went on, and then in 79 things kind of went down a little bit, in 81 that was it.
Let me talking about politics and talking about wins, and let's talk about what were some of the accomplishments that you and the council, if you can jog your memory a bit, that you and the council passed that first time that you were most proud of. It can only be one, or it can be a couple.
Well, I will tell you about ordinance that I put in that I felt very proud of, and it was something that came about as a result of my paying my taxes a little bit late. I went in before I got elected, and this became a campaign issue. It's funny, when you start to run, you might not have a whole lot of issues in your mind, but as you talk to people and as you look around the city and see what has to be done, you come up with a lot of issues. Well, I went to pay my taxes at City Hall, and because I missed the deadline for the first quarterly payment, I was not allowed to make any further payments quarterly. My whole tax then became due immediately. That's the way it was in those days. So I says, well, if I get elected, I'm going to do my best to change that. And I did. When I got elected, I sponsored the resolution that enacted the change in that. So now if you miss your first quarter, you can pay whenever. And you do get fined for that time, but your whole tax does not
well, that's good.
become, you don't lose your right.
Yeah. You bought us some time.
Yep, and then there were some needs. There were some needs at the beaches, the bathhouses. A couple of them were falling down, and I thought they should be torn down and place cleaned up, and we did that. And there were so many things that you were part of. It's hard to pick specific ones, but during the years that I was in, there was a big fire up on Bellevue Avenue. I remember the Travis block down there burned to the ground, and they were going to issue a demolition order to tear that building down. A very, very historic building. And I got a call from Freddie Williamson, who's in charge. I think he still, to this day, might be in charge of, all the historic buildings in the state, and a real, real nice gentleman. And he said, Harp, if there's anything you can do to hold back that order, we'd appreciate it. We might have an opportunity to get the owners of the building some low-interest money to restore it. And sure enough, I talked to the city manager, and we were able to hold back that order, and the building was restored. And I feel very proud of that.
You should be, because that is a Newport landmark. That was a great thing that you...
There are a lot of things that happen like that, as time goes on, you just do the matter-of-factly, as part of your job. And, so if I would have to sit down and pen some things out, I guess, to say...
People have a tendency to forget things, or don't remember until they're brought into light again, like you're bringing this into light. And it's kind of refreshing to hear these things and how hard you worked. There was a couple of crises, though, in your life, and one of them, politically I'm talking about, and one of them was when you heard that the Navy was moving out of Newport.
Yes.
What was your response to that?
It was devastating, Charlie. I had heard rumors, I had the radio on in my truck, I worked for Newport Electric, and you hear, that the base is going to close down, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. And I went down to my uncle's cleaners, the Valeteria cleaners on Thames Street, and I called my office to see, what word they had, and they said Senator Pell's office was trying to track me down, so I gave the number, and they called me, and they told me the words were, "Everything that floats is leaving
Wow.
Narragansett Bay." And I mean, I was shocked. I was really shocked. I worked very hard to promote good relations between the Navy when I was in office. From the day I got in, I always felt the Navy was a priority. They were our biggest employer, and I think the biggest employer in the state, if not, for the state itself. But I tried to cover as many things as I was invited to, over the graduations, and show goodwill. And I was hurt. I was really hurt. But I felt, well, you have to make a decision now. Are you going to play sour grapes and turn your back on what we still had here, all the schools, or do we try to look positive and forward and try to get more facilities back here of a different nature other than the floating, the ships? Mm-hmm. So we did that, and I say we, with the help of Governor Noel at the time, and the three communities got together, and we did. We tried to bring industry back. We tried to continue the good relations with the Navy. I still went to every graduation that I could go to that I was invited to. I didn't miss very many, and it worked out fine. I thought it did. They did at that time increase the schools. The Officer Candidate School was increased. The NAPS came here. There were a lot of different schools like that. Now some of them have gone since that time, but I maintained a positive attitude, and as a result, I was given a Meritorious Public Service Award from the Chief of Naval Operations in 1976, wow, which I'm tremendously proud of. Wow. And in 1981, I was made an honorary graduate of the Officer Candidate School.
Oh,
so,
that's wonderful.
Those good things to happen.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I remember at that particular time, if I'm not mistaken, that John Pershing Sullivan, remember when
Yes, the March on Washington, that's right.
The March on Washington.
Yeah.
He had the, what was it, the
SOS, Save Our Ships, that's right, yeah.
Right.
And but I went to Washington also with a group from Newport. We went down in Ronnie Harmon's car. Ronnie Harmon worked for the city, his big Cadillac, and we went down in Comfort. And we joined that whole group down there and did what we had to do. There were no positive results.
You gave it your best shot.
Exactly.
You can't ask for anything
And
more.
it was something that you had to do. You had to let your steam off and everything else.
It must have been tremendously hard, though, knowing that the Navy is leaving, keeping that positive attitude. So you just keep going and doing what you have to do. And
but it worked. It really did.
Trait.
Yeah.
Wonderful trait.
Yeah.
I'm going to get on to some of these other things now. We know, as you spoke of before, that you had the opportunity, being in office so many years, to meet some famous people. So could you tell us about some of the famous and some of the not so famous people that you've met?
Well, I'll tell you about a real famous person I met, who I regret that I never had my picture taken with, and that's Jimmy Hoffa.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He spoke over at the Sheraton to a labor group, and I met him there and had quite a nice conversation with him, and regret to this day that I didn't have a picture taken with him, just to show my kids, because, he wasn't around much after that.
What kind of man was he? Was he an intelligent talker?
He appeared to be very intelligent. He's very, very proud of what they did for the Union. I mean, and there were some things that were not quite kosher, so to speak, but yes, he was really, really into that Union, and quite proud of his accomplishments. Yeah. But that was one person, and another very interesting man that I met was Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash?
Yes,
No kidding.
And it was St. Patrick's Day, 1976, and Johnny Cash had a cousin going to the War College, and he offered to bring his show down to the War College, and I was invited. The president of War College invited me, and what an evening that was. And I had dinner with Johnny Cash and his family over at the Admiral's house after that. That was really nice.
Now, is he a regular type guy?
Oh, they were so nice. They were
Really?
Yeah, he was so nice,
Down
and his
there?
family, yes. Yeah, you'd be surprised how down to earth a lot of these people are. I mean, they're regular people like you and I, And of course, you do run into
Doris
one or
Duke?
two that was a Doris Duke, yeah, on several occasions. And
She was kind of a, was she kind of a stay-at-home type?
yes, for the most part. But I had to talk to her about something one time, and I invited her to the office. She came down, and this is when we were doing the development of Queen Anne Square, and I had some questions, and I was looking for some support on something. And then I met her at the festivals, a couple of jazz festivals that she attended. She was kind of a stay-at-home, yes, but she didn't appear to be a very pretentious person. You know, when just like you and I, you know, talking here, that's how we talked with her. And I met Elizabeth Taylor. I was at a dinner with her one night. You know.
No, they say about Elizabeth Taylor, I don't know how true it is because I've never met her in person or I've never seen her, but they say that she has the most beautiful eyes of any
I
woman.
think I did look up at them once. She did have beautiful eyes, and when I told the kids,
She had a way of
yeah,
capturing
yes,
your look.
yes, absolutely,
You know?
yeah, she did, and
Kind of that
Yeah.
look about her, yeah.
yeah, and I was telling the kids that I met Elizabeth Taylor and had dinner with her the night before. They said, "What's so big about her?" And I can tell you a couple of things. And of course, the royalty that I met,
My next question?
oh,
And that was going to be Queen Elizabeth?
yes, right, Queen Elizabeth.
What about Queen Elizabeth? Let me ask you this
yeah.
question.
Yeah.
What about Queen Elizabeth and the Humphrey Donnelly three-story? Could you tell us about that?
Well, the story is that when she stepped out of the limousine, she extended her hand and said that I'm Elizabeth II, and I took her hand and said I'm Humphrey III, but that's not true. That was just sort of a joke we made up after.
Is that right?
And
Well,
then
it went all over.
It did. It went all over everywhere. It went all over everywhere. And then I told the story after her visit about my father. I said, my father must be rolling in his grave. He was so Irish, he wouldn't let us have English muffins in the house, you know.
No.
And of course that caught on. And everywhere I went, someone would ask me to tell a story about the English muffins, you know. But that was a treat meeting her, no question about it. And she did unveil the plaque commemorating Queen Anne Square here. And there was a whole lot of work that went into her visit. There's a lot of protocol involved, and I met a lot of nice people as a result of that. And I would say specifically the fellow who was ambassador to the United States at the time from Great Britain, a fellow named Sir Peter Ramsbottom, who has passed away since, excuse me, and he later became the governor of Bermuda. And when my wife and I would go to Bermuda, we'd always pay a call on Sir Peter, and he'd invite us up to Government House, you know, and have a nice treat. Yeah.
Yeah. Must have been nice being mayor then.
Oh, it was. You know, no matter where you went, you know, they would say that I'm the mayor of Newport, or somebody would say it, and right away, you know, everybody would look, you know, oh, Mayor of Newport. People thinking that you were a multi-millionaire for one thing, you know, because you came from Newport, and of course the name Humphrey J. Donnelly III, you know, that made him think a little bit, you know. Right?
Yeah.
But yes, it was a real pleasure and an honor to, you know, have represented the city everywhere. Oh, so many places I went, you know. I went to Japan in 1975 to visit our sister city. Jerry Taylor had a local talk show at the time, and he raised the money. He said, well, let's send our mayor to visit our sister city, and raised over $4,000 by, you know, public contribution, you know, $5 here, $20 and all that. And they sent my wife and I to visit our sister city of Shimoda. And we went to Yokosuka and then to Shimoda, and on the way back we went to Hawaii for a couple of days, San Francisco. It was a treat, a real treat. And then I went out to Washington State to talk about tourism, and out to Oregon to talk about coastal redevelopment, and went down to New London one day to talk about redevelopment also, and spoke in Boston on the value of cultural events, you know, for the locals and for the tourists and things like that. Because Newport is there's so many things going on here. There's so much to talk about, you know.
You know, you had such a, you know, most people don't do a quarter of what you've done in your life. You've done quite a bit. I want to talk a little bit more about your life politically right
Yeah.
now, if we could. And I know you're friends with many politicians, including, from what I hear, Buddy Cianci.
Oh yeah, he's a good friend. Yeah.
Who is or was to this day your favorite politician? Somebody that you might have emulated, or somebody that was your hero, or somebody that may be on the scene today that, if you had the opportunity to be that person, you'd say, oh God, I'd really like to be him, because you think he's doing a fantastic job, or did do a fantastic job?
Very difficult question. Very, very difficult question. Because there are so many people who I appreciate what they're doing now and who are helpful to me now in different things. But I would have to say that I was a very strong admirer of Governor Frank Leach. He instituted a tax that he said he wasn't going to work on, but he saw the situation, saw the need for it, and took a stand and put it on. And I admired him tremendously. And I had friends who were, Phil Noel, tremendous friend as governor, Joe Gary, tremendous friend, and Joe Donnelly, mayor of Providence, again, a real good friend, and Buddy Cianci, who's a real good friend. There are a lot of people who I would probably like to be a little part of each of them, maybe, But I do admire Frank Leach because I thought he was a very honest man, did what he thought was right, and said let the chips fall where they may. And you don't find that in a lot of people in political life.
Is it true what they say about Buddy Cianci? He's given you enough spaghetti sauce for the next 2 years?
He actually hasn't given me any. We've purchased some of it and enjoy it very much, by the way. It's different. But he's a very, very good man. He's doing a good job. He's doing a job that just seems made for him.
He's very colorful.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Seems to love the job.
He does. It's you wonder how things went without him, before. But he goes after what he wants. He goes after it, and generally, he gets his way. I say whatever Buddy wants, but he gets. As a matter of fact, when he ran for governor years ago, he had asked me to be his running mate to change parties, and run as lieutenant governor. And I weighed everything. The Democratic Party had been good to my family over the years, and we were brought up that way. And you end up being, now I wouldn't say like diehard Democrats, because I think now everybody votes the way they want to vote, but that was the party you supported, and I just couldn't see changing parties, and so I backed off that, But I was very honored to have been thought of that highly by him, to have been selected to run,
Mark, on a more serious note, I read in the Newport Daily News an excellent article by Jim Gillis that you're fighting the biggest battle of your life right now. Would you mind telling us a little bit about that?
Well, in February this past year, I was diagnosed as having a cancerous tumor on my liver, which was quite shocking to me. But I had some surgery done in December on my hand, and as a result of some tests, my doctor, my primary healthcare physician, Dr. Harold Sanders, suggested I go into some more testing. I did some, 24-hour urine tests and blood tests and things, and then went into Newport Hospital for some further testing, and they finally did a biopsy of my liver, of the tumor, and concluded it was indeed cancerous. And that was shocking, again, very, very shocking to find that out. And I felt fortunate that I was at least home alone. My wife had been shopping, and when he called to tell me, because, I kind of fell apart a little bit, but then you come back, Yeah. But then you have to say, well, what do we do? And try to make the most of it, and naturally you want to stop the tumor from growing. So I went to a local oncologist. Well, he comes here, Dr. Smythe, Dr. James Smythe, and it's amazing the network that these doctors work with. You know, until you get into a situation like this, and I hope you never do, you find out how concerned all of these people are. And I'll say, you know, there's a lot of talk about healthcare organizations not being like it. I have this Harvard healthcare from Newport Electric as a plus to my Medicare, and they have been fantastic. So I go to Dr. Smythe, and he talks to people, doctors at Rhode Island Hospital, at Brigham and Women's up in Boston, and they're in constant contact. I mean, none of these people making any money on this, you know, with the exception when I go for an office visit. It's all to take care of me, to get me better in the interest of medical science. Well, it was determined after a number of tests that, you know, the biopsies, you know, my barnacle tubes and all that stuff, that the only place I did have this cancer was the liver. So they thought that I had a pretty good chance of getting part of this tumor, if not all of it, removed surgically. And I went up to Boston and was interviewed and had further tests and went in for a pre-op on a Friday and then went in Monday for the operation. And they had told me that they were going to do this scope through the navel, that they put this little machine in and a little scope and they looked the area over. So when I came out of all of that and saw these people there with frowns instead of smiles, you know, I said, well, you know, what happened? What went wrong? And they said that they couldn't operate because they found I also had a very severe case of cirrhosis of the liver, which was, you know, odd because I hadn't had a drop of alcohol in over 14 years, you know. But they claim that probably it's the result of the chemicals I work with over the years, you know, with the power company and everything. But anyways, that left me wondering, you know, what do we do next? But again, back to Dr. Smythe and consulting with him, and they concluded that my next best bet was a procedure they call chemoembolization of the liver. Excuse me. And again, that involves a direct injection into the tumor of this mixture, you know, with the chemo and the some oil and some tiny beads that they hope to choke off the blood supply and all that to the tumor. And I went to Rhode Island Hospital for this. They all put their heads together and concluded that that would be the place for this. And I went to a Dr. Timothy Murphy up there, and he kind of takes care of me there. So I had part of the tumor done one time and got, you know, quite sick. You get sick after. If you know anybody who's had any of that treatment, it's very, very hard to explain, you know, how nauseous you get and all that. And then I went for the second half, and that wasn't nearly as bad as the first half. I didn't feel as bad so long after. And when I was up talking to Dr. Murphy after, and they were checking the results of those procedures, he explained to me a new process, a new procedure that they were doing, where they inject 100% alcohol into the tumor. And I said, oh my gosh, I thought that's how I got this way. And I talked to Dr. Murphy, and I said, well, what do you think? You know, is it worth a shot? And he said, yes. He says, it's new, it's very aggressive. They don't know exactly what reactions I would have after because they hadn't done it all that much. But they figured normally you go in an hour for the procedure, a couple of hours in the hospital after, and then send you home. Well, I did have kind of a reaction to it and got quite sick, although they did let me go home that evening. But then as the days went by, a few days went by, and I thought I should start coming back again, you know, feeling a little better. But I had no appetite. I lost my appetite. I was in pain. And I called out to Murphy, he says, get right up here. So I went up there again, they did the CAT scan and sonograms, and they determined that there was an infraction of the liver. In other words, this procedure had killed a very small part of what good liver I had left. But the good news was he felt they took a tremendous shot at the tumor. So unless I have some problems, in the meantime, he did prescribe, antibiotics and all that and pain medication, and I've been doing fine. I'm a little pain, but unless I have problems, in the meantime, I don't have to go back until September 28th. Now that's nice. That's a long breather, and I won't be getting sick in between. But it makes you appreciate life, and it makes you appreciate what a lot of people go through. I was talking to someone just this morning, and they had a friend who had 54 chemo treatments. Oh my gosh, and I had friends that used to go up to Boston, every couple of days, and you hear about how sick they got. But you can imagine how sick they got, until you went through it. So I really feel fortunate that so far it hasn't spread anywhere else. And I live a halfway decent life. I get tired, I get exhausted. But when I do, I take a break. I'm retired now, and if I have to miss something, a meeting, I miss it. That's how it goes. But so I feel good.
Does it make you enjoy, like you said, enjoy the things that are around you? Like if you go out in your garden, do you really enjoy the flowers?
Well, I don't do too much gardening, but it does. Yes, it does make you enjoy things a whole lot more, and things you took for granted. Like your grandchildren and your great grandchildren, and you cherish every moment you have with them. They come to visit me, or I go to visit them. And yeah, you do appreciate all those things. I appreciate probably more now than ever. Not that I never appreciated before, but the things that my wife does, continues to do for me. And the care that I get from her. She really is in there pitching, and making sure I do this, make sure I take this, make sure, you call the doctor, and get up there or whatever. So I appreciate it. And the cards and letters and things, the phone calls that I have gotten from people, it's unbelievable.
Everybody's in your corner.
Yeah, and the prayer cards and the medals and the different prayers, the different saints that people send me. I try to say one every now and then, and I have my own special ones that I say at night, but a lot of good come out of this thing as far as, you don't realize how many people are on your side out there. And that was tremendous. When they had the Democratic City Committee had that Father's Day brunch, and they sold that place out and had to pull an ad they were going to put in the paper out because the tickets went so fast. Probably that was a tremendous day for me to see all those people, all those people there.
I wonder as we talk, why, we wonder why people can't be more like that when we're all healthy, And, is that
yeah, but believe it or not, I'm not patting myself on the back, but my father used to say, you come in this world with nothing, and you go out with nothing. And if you can help some people along the way, he said, that's what life is all about. And I've tried to do that, and if I could help people to this day, if somebody calls and I can help them with something, I'm more than happy to do it, or try to do it. You can't do everything, but I enjoy doing that. It became a way of life, So I have had a lot of friends, but as you alluded to, you don't realize they're there until something happens like this.
And it's nice to know.
Oh, and the phone calls. I received a call from a fellow from Newport Electric who had retired 20 years ago.
Wow.
And he got the Newport Mercury. They ran that same article that Jim Gillis wrote,
Did a wonderful job.
And it got tremendous response. I'm sitting in the chair, 11:30 one night, 11:30 at night, kind of dozing off, and I get the phone rings, and it's Ken Cornell, who I work with at Newport Electric, who's been out of there 20 years, and he was just thinking about me and had to call and say hello. I received a call from a cousin of mine, first cousin George Donnelly, who I hadn't seen or heard from in years and years. Had no idea where he was. Often more wondered, where he was. But he called me from Cincinnati, and I spoke to him at great length, and it was quite nice.
Harp, I want to ask you this. I hope that you live another 50 years, and if God will, you will. But what I feel I must ask this question. That question would be, what would you like your family, your friends, and the world to remember you both best for?
He wasn't a bad guy. I'd say that. Yeah. Again, put me on the spot. Yeah, I would just like to say that I was a decent person.
And you were.